Today I'm going to tell you about load balancing. So what is load balancing? Introduction. Load balancing is the process of distributing network traffic across multiple servers. This ensures no single server bears too much demand. By spreading the work evenly, load balancing improves application responsiveness. It also increases availability of applications and websites for users. Modern applications cannot run without load balancers. Over time, software load balancers have added additional capabilities, including security and application. Load balancing refers to efficiently distributing incoming network traffic across a group of backend servers, also known as a server farm or server pool. Modern high-traffic websites must serve hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of concurrent requests from users or clients and return the correct text, images, video, or application data, all in a fast and reliable manner. To cost-effectively scale to meet these high volumes, modern computing best practice generally requires adding more servers. A load balancer acts as the traffic cop sitting in front of your servers and routing client requests across all servers, capable of fulfilling those requests in a manner that maximizes speed and capacity utilization and ensures that no one server is overworked, which could degrade performance. If a single server goes down, the load balancer redirects traffic to the remaining online servers. When a new server is added to the server group, the load balancer automatically starts to send requests to it. In this manner, a load balancer performs the following functions: distributes client requests or network load efficiently across multiple servers, ensures high availability and reliability by sending requests only to servers that are online, provides the flexibility to add or subtract servers as demand dictates. Following diagram shows how software and hardware load balancers works. About load balancers. As an organization meets demand for its applications, the load balancer decides which servers can handle that traffic. This maintains a good user experience. Load balancers manage the flow of information between the server and an endpoint device, PC, laptop, tablet, or smartphone. The server could be on premises, in a data center, or the public cloud. The server can also be physical or virtualized. The load balancer helps servers to move data efficiently, optimizes the use of application delivery resources, and prevents server overloads. Load balancers conduct continuous health checks on servers to ensure they can handle requests. If necessary, the load balancer removes unhealthy servers from the pool until they are restored. Some load balancers even trigger the creation of new virtualized application servers to cope with increased demand. Traditionally, load balancers consist of a hardware appliance, yet they are increasingly becoming software-defined. This is why load balancers are an essential part of an organization's digital strategy. Following diagram shows how the load balancers distribute the network traffic. History of load balancing. Load balancing got its start in the 1990s as hardware appliances distributing traffic across a network. Organizations wanted to improve accessibility of applications running on servers. Eventually, load balancing took on more responsibilities with the advent of application delivery controllers, ADCs. They provide security, along with seamless access to applications at peak times. ADCs fall into three categories: hardware appliances, virtual appliances, essentially the software extracted from a legacy hardware, and software-native load balancers. As computing moves to the cloud, software ADCs perform similar tasks to hardware. They also come with added functionality and flexibility. They let an organization quickly and securely scale up its application services based on demand in the cloud. Modern ADCs allow organizations to consolidate network-based services. Those services include SSL TLS offload, caching, compression, intrusion detection, and web application firewalls. This creates even shorter delivery times and greater scalability. Load balancing and SSL. Secure Sockets Layer, SSL, is the standard security technology for establishing an encrypted link between a web server and a browser. SSL traffic is often decrypted at the load balancer. When a load balancer decrypts traffic before passing the request on, it is called SSL termination. The load balancer saves the web servers from having to expend the extra CPU cycles required for decryption. This improves application performance. However, SSL termination comes with a security concern. The traffic between the load balancers and the web servers is no longer encrypted. This can expose the application to possible attack. However, the risk is lessened when the load balancer is within the same data center as the web servers. Load balancing and security. Load balancing plays an important security role as computing moves ever more to the cloud. The offloading function of a load balancer defends an organization against distributed denial of service (DDoS) attacks. It does this by shifting attack traffic from the corporate server to a public cloud provider. DDoS attacks represent a large portion of cybercrime as their number and size continues to rise. Hardware defense, such as a perimeter firewall, can be costly and require significant maintenance. Software load balancers with cloud offload provide efficient and cost-effective protection. Load balancing algorithms. There is a variety of load balancing methods which use different algorithms best suited for a particular situation. Least connection method directs traffic to the server with the fewest active connections. Most useful when there are a large number of persistent connections in the traffic, unevenly distributed between the servers. Least response time method directs traffic to the server with the fewest active connections and the lowest average response time. Round-robin method rotates servers by directing traffic to the first available server and then moves that server to the bottom of the queue. Most useful when servers are of equal specification and there are not many persistent connections. IP hash. The IP address of the client determines which server receives the request. The 5 most common load balancing methods are round-robin, IP hash, least connections, least response time, least bandwidth. Least connection method. When a virtual server is configured to use the least connection load balancing algorithm or method, it selects the service with the fewest active connections. This is the default method because, in most circumstances, it provides the best performance. For TCP, HTTP, HTTPS, and SSL TCP services, the NetScaler appliance includes the following connection types in its list of existing connections. Active connections to a service, connections representing requests that a client has sent to the virtual server and that the virtual server has forwarded to a service. For HTTP and HTTPS services, active connections represent only those HTTP or HTTPS requests that have not yet received a response. Waiting connections in the search queue, any connections to the virtual server that are waiting in a search queue and have not yet been forwarded to a service. Connections can build up in the search queue at any time for any of the following reasons. Your services have connection limits, and all services in your load balancing configuration are at that limit. The surge protection feature is configured and has been activated by a surge in requests to the virtual server. The load balanced server has reached an internal limit and therefore does not open any new connections. For example, an Apache server's connection limit is reached. When a virtual server uses the least connection method, it considers the waiting connections as belonging to the specific service. Therefore, it does not open new connections to those services. The following diagram shows the virtual server selects the service for each incoming connection by choosing the server with the fewest active transactions. Least response time method. When the load balancing virtual server is configured to use the least response time method, it selects the service with the fewest active connections and the lowest average response time. You can configure this method for HTTP and Secure Sockets Layer (SSL) load balancing virtual servers only. The response time, also called time to first bytes or TTFB, is the time interval between sending a request packet to a service and receiving the first response packet from the service. The NetScaler appliance uses response code 200 to calculate TTFB. The diagram example on the next page shows how a virtual server selects a service for load balancing by using the least response time method. Consider the following 3 services. Service HTTP1 is handling 3 active transactions, and TTFB is 2 seconds. Service HTTP2 is handling 7 active transactions, and TTFB is 1 second. Service HTTP3 is not handling any active transactions, and TTFB is 2 seconds. The following diagram shows how the least response time load balancing method works. Round-robin method. Round-robin load balancing is one of the simplest methods for distributing client requests across a group of servers. Going down the list of servers in the group, the round-robin load balancer forwards a client request to each server in turn. When it reaches the end of the list, the load balancer loops back and goes down the list again, sends the next request to the first listed server, the one after that to the second server, and so on. The main benefit of round-robin load balancing is that it is extremely simple to implement. However, it does not always result in the most accurate or efficient distribution of traffic, because many round-robin load balancers assume that all servers are the same, currently up, currently handling the same load, and with the same storage and computing capacity. The following variants to the round-robin algorithm take additional factors into account and can result in better load balancing. Weighted round-robin. A weight is assigned to each server based on criteria chosen by the site administrator. The most commonly used criterion is the server's traffic handling capacity. The higher the weight, the larger the proportion of client requests the server receives. If, for example, server A is assigned a weight of 3 and server B a weight of 1, the load balancer forwards 3 requests to server A. For each one it sends to server B. Dynamic round-robin. A weight is assigned to each server dynamically, based on real-time data about the server's current load and idle capacity. The following diagram shows how the round-robin load balancing method works. IP hash method. The load balancing policy available for NIC teams is the IP hash-based policy, also called the out IP policy. The IP hash-based policy uses the source and destination IP addresses to determine the physical network adapter for communication. This algorithm then allows a single virtual machine to communicate over different physical network adapters when communicating with different destinations. This is the load balancing method that is used by default on Sphere standard and distributed switches. When this policy is in effect, only one VMNIC, physical NIC, is used per virtual NIC or vkernel port. If a NIC's link goes down, the virtual NICs and vkernel ports are reassigned to the remaining NICs that are up, and the host sends out advertisements to the physical switch to ensure the MAC address table is updated. If all NICs in a team are set as active, they're all used for virtual machine or vkernel traffic. Route based on IP hash works by taking the source and destination IP addresses and performing a mathematical calculation on each packet to determine which uplink in the team to use. Because the load balancing is based on the source destination IP addresses, a single virtual machine communicating with multiple IP addresses can balance its load across all of the network adapters in the team and make better use of the available bandwidth. Route based on IP hash load balancing requires that the physical switch ports be combined into another channel, sometimes called an aggregation bond port channel. This ensures that the same hashing algorithm is used for traffic returning in the opposite direction. The following diagram shows how the IP hash load balancing method works. Load balancing benefits: reduced downtime, scalable, redundancy, flexibility, efficiency, global server load balancing. Load balancing can do more than just act as a network traffic cop. Software load balancers provide benefits like predictive analytics that determine traffic bottlenecks before they happen. As a result, the software load balancer gives an organization actionable insights. These are key to automation and can help drive business decisions. In the 7-layer open system interconnection (OSI) model, network firewalls are at levels 1 to 3, L1 physical wiring, L2 data link, and L3 network. Meanwhile, load balancing happens between layers 4 to 7, L4 transport, L5 session, L6 presentation, and L7 application. Load balancers have different capabilities, which include L4 directs traffic based on data from network and transport layer protocols, such as IP address and TCP port. L7 adds content switching to load balancing. This allows routing decisions based on attributes like HTTP header, uniform resource identifier, SSL session ID, and HTML form data. GSLB, global server load balancing, extends L4 and L7 capabilities to servers in different geographic locations. More enterprises are seeking to deploy cloud-native applications in data centers and public clouds. This is leading to significant changes in the capability of load balancers. In turn, this creates both challenges and opportunities for infrastructure and operations leaders. Software load balancers versus hardware load balancers. Software pros: flexibility to adjust for changing needs, ability to scale beyond initial capacity by adding more software instances, lower cost than purchasing and maintaining physical machines. Software can run on any standard device, which tends to be cheaper. Allows for load balancing in the cloud, which provides a managed off-site solution that can draw resources from an elastic network of servers. Cloud computing also allows for the flexibility of hybrid hosted and in-house solutions. The main load balancer could be in-house, while the backup is a cloud load balancer. Hardware pros. Fast throughput due to software running on specialized processors. Increased security since only the organization can access the service physically. Fixed cost once purchased. Software cons. When scaling beyond initial capacity, there can be some delay while configuring load balancer software. Ongoing costs for upgrades. Hardware cons. Require more staff and expertise to configure and program the physical machines. Inability to scale when the set limit on number of connections has been made. Connections are refused or service degraded until additional machines are purchased and installed. Higher cost for purchase and maintenance of physical network load balancer. Owning a hardware load balancer may also require paying for consultants to manage it. Types of load balancing. SDN. Load balancing using SDN, software-defined networking, separates the control plane from the data plane for application delivery. This allows the control of multiple load balancing. It also helps the network to function like the virtualized versions of compute and storage. With a centralized control, networking policies and parameters can be programmed directly for more responsive and efficient application services. This is how networks can become more agile. UDP. A UDP load balancer utilizes User Datagram Protocol (UDP). UDP load balancing is often used for live broadcasts and online games when speed is important and there is little need for error correction. UDP has low latency because it does not provide time-consuming health checks. TCP. A TCP load balancer uses Transmission Control Protocol (TCP). TCP load balancing provides a reliable and error-checked stream of packets to IP addresses, which can otherwise easily be lost or corrupted. SLB. Server load balancing. SLB provides network services and content delivery using a series of load balancing algorithms. It prioritizes responses to the specific requests from clients over the network. Server load balancing distributes client traffic to servers to ensure consistent, high-performance application delivery. Virtual load balancing aims to mimic software-driven infrastructure through virtualization. It runs the software of a physical load balancing appliance on a virtual machine. Virtual load balancers, however, do not avoid the architectural challenges of traditional hardware appliances, which include limited scalability and automation and lack of central management. Elastic load balancing scales traffic to an application as demand changes over time. It uses system health checks to learn the status of application pool members, application servers, and routes traffic appropriately to available servers, manages failover to high availability targets, or automatically spins up additional capacity. Geographic load balancing redistributes application traffic across data centers in different locations for maximum efficiency and security. While local load balancing happens within a single data center, geographic load balancing uses multiple data centers in many locations. Multi-site load balancing, also known as global server load balancing, GSLB, distributes traffic across servers located in multiple sites or locations around the world. The servers can be on premises or hosted in a public or private cloud. Multi-site load balancing is important for quick disaster recovery and business continuity after a disaster in one location renders a server inoperable. Load balancer as a service, LBAS. Load balancer as a service, LBAS, uses advances in load balancing technology to meet the agility and application traffic demands of organizations implementing private cloud infrastructure. Using an as-a-service model, LBAS creates a simple model for application teams to spin up load balancers. Load balancer types. Elastic load balancing supports the following types of load balancers: application load balancers, network load balancers, and classic load balancers. Amazon X services can use either type of load balancer. Application load balancers are used to route HTTP, HTTPS, or Layer 7 traffic. Network load balancers and classic load balancers are used to route TCP or Layer 4 traffic. Application load balancer, network load balancer, classic load balancer. Application load balancer. An application load balancer makes routing decisions at the application layer. HTTP, HTTPS supports path-based routing and can route requests to one or more ports on each container instance in your cluster. Application load balancers support dynamic host port mapping. For example, if your task's container definition specifies port 80 for an NGINX container port and port 0 for the host port, then the host port is dynamically chosen from the ephemeral port range of the container instance, such as 32,768 to 61,000 on the latest Amazon X optimized AMI. When the task is launched, the NGINX container is registered with the application load balancer as an instance ID and port combination, and traffic is distributed to the instance ID and port corresponding to that container. This dynamic mapping allows you to have multiple tasks from a single service on the same container instance. Network Load Balancer. A network load balancer makes routing decisions at the transport layer, TCP/SSL. It can handle millions of requests per second. After the load balancer receives a connection, it selects a target from the target group for the default rule using a flow hash routing algorithm. It attempts to open a TCP connection to the selected target on the port specified in the listener configuration. It forwards the request without modifying the headers. Network load balancers support dynamic host port mapping. For example, if your task's container definition specifies port 80 for an NGINX container port and port 0 for the host port, then the host port is dynamically chosen from the ephemeral port range of the container instance, such as 32,768 to 61,000 on the latest Amazon X optimized AMI. When the task is launched, the NGINX container is registered with the network load balancer as an instance ID and port combination, and traffic is distributed to the instance ID and port corresponding to that container. This dynamic mapping allows you to have multiple tasks from a single service on the same container instance. Classic Load Balancer. A classic load balancer makes routing decisions at either the transport layer, TCP/SSL, or the application layer, HTTP/HTTPS. Classic load balancers currently require a fixed relationship between the load balancer port and the container instance port. For example, it is possible to map the load balancer port 80 to the container instance port 3030 and the load balancer port 4040 to the container instance port 4040. However, it is not possible to map the load balancer port 80 to port 3030 on one container instance and port 4040 on another container instance. This static mapping requires that your cluster has at least as many container instances as the desired count of a single service that uses a classic load balancer.